It's hot, 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 hot in the summer of 1914. The place is Europe. Ferdinand has just met his demise in Sarajevo. Europe is tense as the Austrians are preparing for intervention. Soon, the Russians would jump to the defense of Serbia. Soon, the Germans would declare war on them. Soon, everyone was at war. And by November, over 2 million soldiers had been killed. How did we get here? Let's find out how World War I started and changed the world. Why did World War I start? Well, there were many factors that led to the beginning of the war. First, there was militarism. Every great power in Europe was building up its military. France had the most powerful navy in the world. Germany built a massive army and began competing with Britain on the seas. Britain had the largest empire in history and was determined to keep it that way. Then there was imperialism. European powers were carving up Africa and Asia amongst themselves. This created a lot of tension and rivalries. Germany and Britain were especially competing against each other for colonies. Then there was nationalism. Every ethnic group wanted to be independent and free from the rule of others. This was especially true in the Balkans. There were many different ethnic groups there, such as the Serbs, Romanians, Bulgarians, and Russians. They all wanted to be their own nation, free from the rule of the Ottoman Empire. Finally, there were the alliances. All of these rivalries and tensions created a complex web of alliances between European powers. There were two main alliances. One was the Triple Entente, which consisted of France, Russia, and Britain. The other was the Triple Alliance, which consisted of Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. These alliances would soon be put to the test. When Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo, the Austrians were preparing to intervene. Soon, the Russians would jump to the defense of Serbia. Soon, the Germans would declare war on them. Soon, everyone was at war. As the fighting began, the Austrians marched into Serbia. However, they soon found out that the Russians were defending Serbia. As the Austrians were pushed back, they retreated to Hungary. This caused a political crisis in Hungary. Many ethnic groups within the empire wanted independence from the Hungarians. This caused the empire to split into two separate pieces. This meant that the Germans now had to fight a two-front war. This caused the Germans to go all out and try to win the war quickly. They began their invasion of Belgium. This caused a political crisis in Britain. Did they have a duty to defend Belgium? What about their other colonies and trading partners around the world? In the end, they decided to intervene. Soon the war would become a global conflict. The fighting on the Western Front was especially brutal. Millions of soldiers would be killed or wounded. New weapons and tactics were developed. Trench warfare became the norm. The use of poison gas, tanks, and airplanes became widespread. New technologies such as the machine gun led to a stalemate on the Western Front. New military tactics had to be developed. Trench warfare became the norm. Armies would launch massive attacks across no man's land. They would use new weapons such as tanks and poison gas to break through enemy lines. But in the end, it usually resulted in a stalemate. As the war dragged on, more and more people began to question the purpose of it all. What was this war about? Who was it for? Many people began to call for an end to the war. However, the leaders of the countries at war were not willing to give up. They had too much invested in the war to pull out now. They would continue to fight until one side or the other emerged victorious. In the end, it would be the Central Powers who would lose the war. The Treaty of Versailles was harsh on Germany. They were forced to give up all of their colonies. They were also required to pay reparations for the damage that they had caused. This would lead to the rise of extremism in Germany. It would also lead to the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires. It would also lead to the creation of new nations. New countries such as Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Poland would emerge. The war would also lead to the rise of the United States as a global power. After the war, the US would emerge as the world's greatest power. They would also emerge as a major player in world affairs. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content.